Today we are going to be talking about a compound sentence and a complex sentence. Let's take a look at these two sentences. We have Mark and his mom go to the skating rink. Mark has never skated before. Well, we know that each sentence needs to have a subject and a predicate. The subject I use green, and I have Mark, and I have his mom. So I have two subjects in this sentence. A compound subject. That's in the red box. The predicate is the rest of the sentence. It has the verb in it and other words that tell us what, when, where, gives us more information. So this is a sentence. It has a subject and it has a verb. Mark and his mom go to the skating rink. Let's look at this one. This sentence is about Mark. He's our subject. And the rest of the sentence is our predicate. Has a verb, has skated. Mark has never skated before. You can see if you remember our adverbs of frequency. Here's never, that's an adverb of frequency. And the verb is a two-part verb, has skated. So we have these two sentences. Well, we can put them together. We can glue them together. We have some special words that we use to combine or glue sentences together. Those special words have a fancy name. They're called a conjunction. I like to call them glue. They are going to stick together two sentences. Well, we have two different kinds of conjunctions. We will talk about those in a minute. Now, before we put these two sentences together, there are two more words that I need to introduce to you. You have already heard the word phrase. We talked about this in a different lesson. Remember that a phrase is a group of words, such as a prepositional phrase. It's a group of words that does not have both a subject and a verb in it, and the group of words together can be used as one part of speech, like a noun to be the subject or an object in the sentence, or to be the verb in a sentence, or to do the job of an adjective or an adverb in the sentence. An adjective would tell us more about a noun, like which one are we talking about, or an adverb will answer a question about when is this happening or where is this happening. So phrases are important, but a phrase cannot be a sentence by itself because it does not have both a subject and a verb. In this, let me show you the other word. The other word is this word here, clause. A clause is like a phrase. It is a group of words in the sentence, but this group of words has both a subject and a verb. So a clause can be a sentence all by itself, and if it is, we call it an independent clause. Independent means not dependent. It means it can be a sentence all by itself. It does not need anything else to help it. So an independent clause is a fancy way of saying that it is a complete sentence. Mark and his mom go to the skating rink. That is an independent clause. It has a subject, it has a verb, and it can be a sentence all by itself. Mark has never skated before. That is also an independent clause. It has a subject, it has a verb, it can be a sentence all by itself. So I can combine these two sentences in a couple different ways. I'm going to show you some of the glue that I can use. One kind over here are these words, and one kind over here are these words. Let's see if we can see all of those. Okay. So one way we can do this is we could say, Mark and his mom go to the skating rink. And then we could say, but Mark has never skated before. If we do that, we are going to turn this period into a comma. So Mark and his mom go to the skating rink, but Mark has never skated before. This is what we call a compound sentence. The other way we could do this is we could say, Mark and his mom go to the skating rink even though Mark has never skated before. With this sentence, we actually do not need that comma. There is a different rule about the comma when we use this word. We can also take this and move it to the beginning. And then we need to use a capital E. Even though Mark has never skated before, Mark and his mom go to the skating rink. And if we do this, then we do need a comma. Well, understanding the rules about when to use a comma, when to not use a comma, and if we should use this word or this word, is what we are going to be learning about today when we talk about compound sentences and complex sentences. The difference between a compound and a complex sentence is which glue we are using. This sentence here that begins with even though came from this group of words, and it made a complex sentence. So we need to look more at this glue. The glue over here on this side is used to make a compound sentence. And I am going to color the glue on this side orange. So I'm going to put an orange box around these words. I'm going to call this my orange glue. These are conjunctions that are used to make a compound sentence. Over here on this side, I'm going to call this my purple glue. These words are used to make a complex sentence. So I'm going to put purple around these words. This says although, this one is even though, this one is when. I don't know if I can get it there. And because. And there are many more. If, since, while, though, but we're going to work with these today. So I'm going to put my purple glue over here. So we need to go back to this word that we were talking about, the clause. Remember that the clause is going to have in it a subject, and I use red for my subject, and then it's going to have a verb, which is at the beginning of the predicate. So my sentence has two parts, a subject and a predicate. A predicate is kind of a fancy word. The most important word in the predicate is the verb. That goes at or near the beginning. And the subject is going to tell us who or what the sentence is about. And it will be a noun or a pronoun or a phrase that is acting like a noun. Now we're going to start by looking at our compound sentence, our but, and so. So we're going to take a group of two sentences that we want to combine. So we have Mark starts skating, he can't stop. So let's look at these two sentences. We have our subject here and our predicate. And over here we have our subject and we have our predicate. So we have two independent clauses. Now I'm going to cut these in two. So I have my two sentences, and I want to combine these. I need to think about which word would sound the best, because these words have different meanings. And means that both things are true at the same time. So is a word that we use when we have something called cause and effect. Cause and effect is when we have two things happening, 1 and 2. They do not happen at the same time. This one happens first. This one happens next. And the reason this happens is because this one happens first. This happens first, so this one happens next. If we're going to use the word so, then we're going to find the one that happens first. What happens first here? Mark starts skating. He can't stop. Well, we don't know that this is going to be a good sentence for so. Let's see what other kind of word we have. We also have a word that means that we use for compare and contrast. Compare and contrast is when we have two different things going on and they don't seem to go together. They seem to be a little bit different. They don't agree or make sense. So let's see, we're going to use but with that one. But is a word we use for compare and contrast, and so is a word we use for cause and effect. So we have these two things happening here. We know they're not happening at the same time, so we're not going to use and. The reason he can't stop, I don't think this one is causing this one, maybe, but I think what sounds like it might work is but. So I can say, Mark starts skating, but he can't stop. That makes sense. Now, we have a rule with this. We have an independent clause here, and then we have the glue, and then we have an independent clause here. Okay, so this is an independent clause over on this side, and this is an independent clause over on this side, and we are gluing them together with this word but. So what we're going to do is we're just going to change this first period into a comma. And then we need to change this capital H into a little h. So we will say he. Mark starts skating, but he can't stop. So that is how we can make a compound sentence. let's see if we can do one with so. Well, let's see here. Let's try this one. Okay, so we have two sentences. Let's see if we can make sure we see them here. Okay, so let's look at the first one. We have who is our sentence about? It's about a skater. That's the subject. We have our predicate, bumps into Mark. A skater bumps into Mark. And then in our next sentence, we have a subject, Mark, and we have a predicate, start spinning. So we know that we have two independent clauses. We have two complete sentences. Let's cut these in half. Okay, there's our two sentences. How can we combine these? We're going to use so. And the reason is because, let's look at the cause and effect. One of these happens first. What happens first? Does Mark start spinning and then a skater bumps into him? No. What happens first is that a skater bumps into Mark. That happens first, and after that, it causes Mark to start spinning. The reason Mark is spinning around and around and around is because a skater bumped into him. So we're going to say a skater bumped into Mark, that's the cause. Mark starts spinning, that's the effect, and we use so in the middle. And all we need to do is turn this period into a comma. This is a compound sentence because we have an independent clause over here and we have an independent clause over here, and we are sticking them together with this glue, the word so, which is a type of conjunction. We'll put so here. Okay. Let's look at this one. Okay, we have Mark has a great time. He can't wait to go skating again. So let's look at this sentence. We have our subject and we have our predicate. Mark is just one person, so we have an S at the end of has. Mark has a great time. We look at our next sentence. He can't wait to go skating again. There's our subject. And can't wait to go skating again is our predicate. The verb is can wait. Let's cut these here. Mark has a great time. He can't wait to go skating again. We can use and. Mark has a great time and he can't wait to go skating again. Okay, all we need to do is turn this into a comma, and we need to turn this into a little h. Mark has a great time and he can't wait to go skating again. That is a compound sentence. All right, let's see. Let's look at these two. I am hungry, I eat a snack. Here I have my subject. Over here is my subject. Here is my predicate. This is a verb, and this is an adjective describing how I am feeling. This is my predicate. This is my verb, and this is an object telling me what do I eat. I eat what? I eat a snack. I am hungry, I eat a snack. Well, this is an example of cause and effect. What happens first? Do I eat a snack first and then I am hungry? No, I am hungry first, and so then I eat a snack. So I can use this glue to say, I am hungry, so I eat a snack. And all I need to do is turn this into a comma. The I stays capital, so my sentence is, I am hungry, so I eat a snack. That is a compound sentence because I have two independent clauses that are joined together by the word so. Well, we have not talked yet about this other kind of glue. Where did I put my word but? Here it is. Okay. Let's make sure we can see those. And let's bring these back. Let's look at our purple glue again. Is there a way for us to use one of these words? How about I am hungry because I eat a snack? No, that does not make sense. But if I switch these, I eat a snack because I am hungry. That makes sense. When we look at the cause effect, and if we're going to use because, we say this one first. We say what happens second, what happens last, because this one happened first. So this actually happened second, and this happened first. And so when we use because, we put the effect first and then the cause. If we're going to use so, we switch them and we put the cause first, the effect second. Okay, so this happens first, this happens second. I am hungry, so I eat a snack, or I eat a snack because I am hungry. Now, when we use so, we call it a compound sentence if we're using the orange glue. But when we use the purple glue, like because, we call it a complex sentence. The rules for the comma are different with the complex sentence. So we are going to talk a little bit about the complex sentence right now. So we're going to move this up out here. We're not going to talk about those right now. We're going to talk about these. Okay, we know that before we started, we had two independent clauses. But with the purple glue, when we stick the purple glue onto an independent clause, we do not call it an independent clause anymore. We call it now a dependent clause. Dependent clause means it is a group of words that has a subject and a verb, but it cannot be a sentence by itself. We cannot have a sentence that says, because I am hungry, period. We feel like we haven't finished explaining what is happening in the sentence. We are left with questions. So when we use the purple glue, these words, even though, although, when, because, if, since, while, that type of conjunction, this is a type of conjunction, when we put it at the beginning of a dependent, if we take our independent clause, like I am hungry, and if we put a conjunction on the beginning of it, like because is a conjunction. If we stick that together, then we now call it a dependent clause. And a dependent clause cannot be a sentence by itself. A dependent clause depends on being connected to an independent clause. Now, if we put the independent clause first, we do not use a comma. So if I have, I eat a snack because I am hungry, then we do not need a comma. But the neat thing about a complex sentence is we can switch these two like this. We can move and put the dependent clause at the beginning. So I can take my dependent clause, have to keep my conjunction stuck there, move it to the beginning, and then my independent clause. Well, I need to make sure that my because has a capital B now. Because I am hungry, I eat a snack. If we do this, if we move the dependent clause to the beginning, then we need a comma. So with the complex sentence, here's the rule about a comma. If the independent clause goes first, I eat a snack because I am hungry. We need to get rid of our capital B, get rid of our period. I eat a snack because I am hungry. Then we do not use a comma. But if we switch it and put the dependent clause first, then it's kind of like putting an introductory phrase at the beginning of the sentence, except we call it a clause because it does have a subject and a verb in it. Then, I need my capital B, then we use a comma. And that is a complex sentence. That's the rule with a complex sentence. The independent clause is considered the main sentence, so if that goes first, we don't need a comma after it. Now, let's talk just for a minute about the comma rule with the compound sentence. Okay, so with this one, we're not going to be using purple glue. We're going to be using so from the orange glue. So that's the group of conjunctions we use for compound sentences. We know we want to have the cause first, number one first, number two second. They go in order of what happens first and what happens next. I am hungry, so I eat a snack. When we're using this orange glue over here, okay, the words so, and but, those make compound sentences. And when we do this, we continue to call each clause an independent clause. So we call I am hungry is called an independent clause. And I eat a snack is called an independent clause. So in a compound sentence, we have two independent clauses, one at the beginning, one at the end, and the glue goes in the middle. With this sentence, with the compound sentence, where is my compound sentence? Right here, compound sentence. We always use a comma before the conjunction. But remember, you need to have a subject and a verb in the first clause, and you need to have a subject and a verb in the next clause. So you need to have a complete sentence here. This should be able to be a sentence all by itself, I am hungry. And this one should be able to be a sentence all by itself, I eat a snack. And if they are, if this is an independent clause and this is an independent clause, then you can change that period to a comma, put and, but, or so here, and you have a compound sentence. But if we are using these conjunctions, this is a different list. It does not make a compound sentence, it makes a complex sentence. And with this, we have a different comma rule because we say that when we add this to the beginning of the independent clause, it turns it into a dependent clause. Okay, so we take our independent clause, we add a conjunction to the beginning of it, and then we call it a dependent clause. If the dependent clause goes at the end of the sentence, there's no comma. I don't know if you can see both of those at the same time. No comma. But if the dependent clause goes at the beginning, then we have a comma. So let's look at a couple more examples. Okay. Let's look at another example of a cause and effect. Remember, with cause and effect, we have two things that are going to happen. One happens first, then something else happens, and this happens because this happened. This is the cause, this is the effect. If we're going to use so, we put the cause first. If we're going to use because or when, then we put the effect first. So let's try that out. Here we have, actually before we do the cat follows the mouse, let's look one more time at our I am hungry, I eat a snack. Okay, so we tried because, I am hungry, we tried because, we didn't try when. I want to show you when. So, would we say I am hungry when I eat a snack? No. We would say I am hungry, I eat a snack when I am hungry. So here, this word, I put it on in the front of my independent clause and it becomes a dependent clause. Then I put it after my independent clause and I do not need a comma. So I eat a snack when I am hungry. I can take my dependent clause, move it to the beginning, and now I will need to make that a capital W. When I am hungry, comma, I eat a snack. Okay, now let's look at a different sentence. So let's look at the cat follows the mouse, the girl falls off the fence. This was in a story that one of my students wrote. So this happened first. The cat follows the mouse, chases the mouse, and it kind of scared the girl, and so she falls off the fence. So both of these are complete sentences. You can see this one is about the cat. This one is about the girl. Those are the subjects. And then we have our predicate, both parts, red and green. Over here we have falls off the fence, red and green. So we want to think about how do these sentences go together? Well, we know that this one happens first, this one happens next, and this one happens because of this one. So that means we have a cause and effect. So we can use so, like this. The cat follows the mouse, so the girl falls off the fence. And if we do that, we need to turn this into a comma, and this needs to become a little t. And that was an example of a compound sentence. Independent clause, the orange glue in the middle. Now, what can we use over here? These words, when and because, go well with cause and effect sentences, but we're going to switch them like this. So we could say, the girl falls off the fence because. Now first we're going to take this independent clause and we're going to stick the because in front of it, which means we need to turn this into a little t. Because the cat follows the mouse, that is now my dependent clause. This is my independent clause. The girl falls off the fence, and I'm going to cover up my period. The girl falls off the fence because the cat follows the mouse. Sometimes, though, it is helpful to write the sentence in order of what happens first and what happens next. So to do that here, I need to switch these. And I'm going to say, because the cat follows the mouse, comma, the girl falls off the fence. See if we can get all of that in here. And we need to turn our because into a capital B. Because can also be used to answer the question, why? So another one of my students wrote the sentence, I like the long distance race at school. It is fun. Why does he like the long distance race at school? Because it is fun. So all we need to do is let's check to make sure they're both independent clauses. This one has a subject here. This one has a subject here. Both of those subjects are pronouns. This has a predicate. We can see that we have the verb like what? The long distance race, that's the object. And we have a prepositional phrase, at school. That tells us where the race is. And over here we have a red, green, yellow sentence. Here's our predicate. Our verb is, and fun is an adjective. I'm putting green boxes today around the whole predicate, not just the verb, but the whole rest of the sentence. The object and the prepositional phrase are part of the whole predicate. Inside this predicate, we have the verb, the object, and the prepositional phrase. And inside this predicate, we have the verb and an adjective. Okay, both have two parts, red and green, so we can put them together. I'm going to put the reason here, because it is fun, as soon as I put the conjunction on this is an independent clause. It can be a sentence all by itself. But as soon as I connect this conjunction to the beginning of it, it gets stuck together, and we now call it a dependent clause. This one. Dependent clause. And I can move that to the beginning of my sentence. And then what I do is I turn this into a comma. If I put the dependent clause first, I need to put a comma there. And I need to make sure that I turn my B into a capital B. And I also need to make sure that I turn the I into a little I. Because it is fun, comma, I like the long distance race at school. One problem with this sentence is that I am using a pronoun and I have not already said what this pronoun is. We are not supposed to use a pronoun in English unless we have already said what the pronoun is talking about. What noun is it referring to? And it's talking about the race, but the race is coming later in the sentence, so we might need to fix that. Okay. All right, I have two more. Let's look at this one. It is cold. I want to wear shorts. So let's check these two sentences. It is my subject. I is my subject. Here's my predicate. And want to wear shorts is my predicate. Well, I need to see, how do these sentences go together? Wearing shorts does not cause it to be cold. Being cold does not cause me to want to wear shorts, so it's not a cause and effect sentence. So I'm not going to use because or when, or so. So I'm going to be looking at but, although, and even though, because these two sentences don't really seem to make sense together. They don't really agree. They kind of seem like, like why would they go together? So this is going to be a kind of sentence that we call compare and contrast. Contrast means when two things are different. And it seems different, right? When it is cold, I should want to wear long pants so I can be warm. But I want to wear shorts. Well, usually we wear shorts when it's hot or warm outside. So they don't really seem to agree. So it would make sense for us to use but, although, or even though. Well, let's see what would happen. Usually with these, it makes a difference. We can't just go like this or like this. We need to think about what makes sense. So I could say, it is cold, but I want to wear shorts. Yeah, that makes sense. It seems, because it makes sense because it seems like crazy, right? Like, why would I want to wear shorts when it is cold? And I would have to turn this into a comma because I have but. It is cold, but I want to wear shorts. Now, if I did it this way, if I said I want to wear shorts, but it is cold, I could do that, but the meaning would be different. This would not have the same meaning. This would mean I really want to wear shorts today, but it is cold, so I probably won't wear shorts. I would have to turn this into a comma and make this a little I. But if I'm going to wear shorts, okay, if I'm definitely wearing shorts, even though it's cold, then I would do it this way. It is cold, but I want to wear shorts. Now, even better than but would be one of these. If I move this here and say, even though it is cold, I want to wear shorts. That really makes it clear what my sentence means. So here, remember, these were my independent clauses. Subject, verb, that can be a sentence by itself. Subject, verb, that can be a sentence by itself. And then I'm going to take this, the purple glue, this one, this conjunction, but I need to take one with a capital E. And when I stick it here, and turn this into a little I, that is my dependent clause. If the dependent clause goes first, then I need the comma. So my sentence, and over here would be the independent clause. That's my main sentence. The independent clause is always the main sentence. So what I have here is I have a dependent clause first, and then I have my independent clause next. So I need to have a comma. Even though it is cold, I want to wear shorts. Although means the same thing as even though. So if I take a capital A and say, although it is cold, I want to wear shorts. We could switch them like this. I want to wear shorts although it is cold. But if we do that, I need my little a. And then I do not need a comma here because I have my independent clause first, my dependent clause next. I want to wear shorts although it is cold. For this sentence, I kind of like even though the best. I want to wear shorts. There's my independent clause. This is going to be my dependent clause. And I cover up my period. No comma needed. I want to wear shorts even though it is cold. And that should be a period. So when we are using although, or even though, or but, we are doing a kind of sentence. It's very helpful when we are talking about two things that are different. They don't seem to go together. They don't seem to make sense together because they're different. All right, we're going to do one more example. Here's my sentences. Here are my sentences. I want to watch TV, I am going to do my homework first. Both of them have the subject I, and both of them have the predicate. I want to watch TV, and I am going to do my homework first. Oh, what a good student. Okay, let's look at these separately. Okay. So these two things are kind of different. This one is about I want to watch TV, and this one is about doing homework. So I think I have, I need to look for my compare contrast words. So I'm going to look for but, even though, and although. Okay, so what would make sense? I want to watch TV, but I'm going to do my homework first. That makes sense. I need to turn this period into a comma. I want to watch TV, but I'm going to do my homework first. We could use although, but if we use although, we need to remember that it's getting stuck to this. Here's my independent clause. I put my purple glue, my conjunction on the front, it gets stuck there. And then we do not want a comma, so pretend there's no comma there. I want to watch TV, although I'm going to do my homework first. Does that sound right, or should we switch these two? Let's try it. I'm going to do my homework first, although I want to watch TV. I think this one sounds a little bit better. We have to think about what makes sense. I'm going to do my homework first, although I want to watch TV. This has become, do we see all of that on the, okay. This has become a long sentence though. And this part here is kind of important. So I'm going to move this to the beginning and see how that sounds. And if I do that, I need to make sure I have a capital A. I'm not sure what I did with my capital A. We have to pretend that's a capital A. Capital A. We don't want it to look like a. There. Although I want to watch TV, I am going to do my homework first. Yep, I like how that sounds. So remember, independent clause, independent clause. We stick on this conjunction, this kind over here. We got to move that over there. Then that becomes a dependent clause. If we put it first at the beginning of the sentence, we need a comma at the end. Although I want to watch TV, I am going to do my homework first. We could also say, even though I want to watch TV, I am going to do my homework first. For this one, if we're going to use but, we would put it here. I want to watch TV, but I am going to do my homework first. Okay, so some important things to remember are that we have two different kinds of glue. This kind over here that I have orange, and this kind over here that I have purple. The orange is used when we combine two independent clauses. We call each one independent, and together they make a compound sentence. So those are used to make a compound sentence. These over here, as soon as we stick one of these on to the beginning of an independent clause, we call it a dependent clause. And a dependent clause needs to be connected to an independent clause. If the independent clause comes first, no comma. If the dependent clause comes first, then we need a comma. And this kind of sentence is called a complex sentence. So the complex sentence uses a different list of conjunctions. A compound sentence, we always put a comma before the conjunction. So we'll have a comma here, and a comma here. For the complex sentence, we only use a comma if we put the dependent clause first. That means if we start the sentence with this conjunction, if we start it with even though, because, when, if, since, while, then we put a comma after that dependent clause. The other thing to remember is that these words have different meanings. So when we are looking at our two sentences, we need to decide, how do those sentences go together? If we are talking about one sentence causes the other one to happen, and it's cause-effect, then for the compound sentence we're going to use so. For the complex sentence we're going to use because or when. We could also use if or since. But if the two sentences are comparing and contrasting two different things, if the things kind of don't seem to agree, they seem sort of opposite, or that like they don't quite make sense together, then we might be using but, or even though, or although to put them together. Okay, so we had a lot of words today. We talked about picking out our conjunctions to help us with compare-contrast sentences, picking out our conjunctions to help us with cause-effect sentences. We talked about how these words that are going to glue together different clauses are called conjunctions. We talked about how a group of words that has a subject and a predicate is called a clause. If it can be a sentence all by itself, it's called an independent clause. When we have two of these stuck together with and, but, or so, we call it a compound sentence. When we have an independent clause and a dependent clause stuck together with these, with our purple words, we call it a complex sentence. And these are different from what we talked about in the previous lesson when we were talking about the phrase. So remember, the phrase is a group of words that work together to do the job of one part of speech in the sentence. Maybe just the object, or just the subject, or just the verb, or just answering the question when or where, but they do not have both a subject and a verb. So they're different from a clause, because a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a verb. So that today is showing us how we can make these two different kinds of sentences, compound and complex. It's when we start out with two complete sentences and we figure out a way to glue them together and combine them into one. And we do that using a word from this list or a word from this list. So there are two different groups of conjunctions. If we choose from this list, we make the complex sentence, and if we choose from this list, we make the compound sentence. Okay, great job today.